Hello and welcome to the All Round Coaching podcast, episode number 59. It's just myself today, and I say that as if people actually know who I am. So I'm Claire, who actually does run the All Round Coaching. I wanted to come on and do this episode because it's something that comes up with a lot of people, and obviously it was a discussion that I had with my team in the group chat as well. And I think a lot of people are under the illusion that if you don't log your calories, you've failed. And there is so many other ways, but there's nothing to be said that having a plan and some structure isn't helpful. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are missing. So I hold my success, and especially of late as well. I always plan ahead with things. So planning ahead for the full week was an absolute game changer for me. And I know for the people that have done it, it's helped them as well. And if you are a busy person or you've got kids, big family, whichever, and I imagine a lot of people are, unless you're in that like minority of 2% where you're a kept person and someone's looking after you, but guarantee that everybody's got a life. So are you the most busiest person in the world? Probably not. Everybody has something, but if you know what you're having, whether this is like your food or your training, obviously I'll stick a little bit more on the nutrition side so it's easier to digest for you today. But if you know what you're having, say on your nutrition, planning ahead for your entire week. You know what foods to buy. You put them foods on a list. It's obviously going to save you money in the long run because you're not just buying food on the ad hoc. It's going to remove that decision fatigue. So you're not having to think about what you're having because you've already planned it in. I always sit down and do it on a Sunday because it does make it easier. You're not guessing, and obviously you're increasing your accountability, whether it's for yourself or you have a coach as well. It's going to increase that accountability because you've already planned out your entire week. So the same applies, like your training, your work schedule, activities, etc. Your overwhelm's going to set in if you decide to keep it all in your head. So my advice to you, sit down on a Sunday, write out all the meals that you're having at breakfast, lunch and dinner, plan it in, obviously put the calories alongside that. And it's like having a little set menu. My guys obviously have the app with me when they join my coaching, but there's other apps out there like MyFitnessPal. You can save your meals, you can put your entire week in, you can obviously create your shopping list from this. But logging your food or not, you can still make good choices. Yes, logging your food enables us to see like your calorie intake, which, by the way, does have inaccuracies. And I know food labels are allowed up to 20%, but people naturally miss things off as well, or they'll guess the portion sizes or the weight of food. Now, I've seen this happen. So, say you have 5 grams of peanut butter, but you guess like a teaspoonful. I can guarantee that your teaspoon is going to weigh more than that 5 grams. So, if you are guesstimating your food and you're not getting anywhere, you can alleviate that frustration by actually having a little bit more accuracy and adherence around it. I don't think people focus wholly on food quality. So, it matters more than calories, and low calories doesn't equal health. So if your food quality is better and you're focusing on your nutrients, your vitamins, and you've got your three main macros, which is your protein, your carbs, and your fats, which all do serve a purpose, people tend to blame the food groups as opposed to the real reason. Like, you might be eating too many calories and that's why you're gaining body fat. So if you're eating too many calories, which obviously units of energy in, and you're not burning that, which many people are sedentary now and they aren't actually moving that much. So if you're consuming more than what you need, that's how you're going to gain body fat as well. If you've got an idea of what you're eating, i.e. you're logging your calories, you're weighing your food, or you've got portion control, you're going to have a better idea of where to take your calories, where to put your food, and you're probably going to make more results. Unfortunately, if anyone's like me, a little person, obviously I'm standing at 5'2" tall, which I am. Some argue that I'm 5 foot. Then we don't require as much energy, so we don't need as much intake with the calories, and obviously they can be a lot lower. If you are a little person, yes, it is frustrating, but we have the option of moving that little bit more if you want to eat a little bit more. And it's not to say that you want to use exercise or going for walks as a means to, oh, I've eaten this, then I'm going to punish myself. Like, it all should fall in line. It should feel like you're looking after your health as opposed to just being a smaller version. One thing that I've said to the guys that does come up most frequently is the main issue for people is the consistency. So you're frustrating setting, but if you ask yourself, have I been consistent? And this doesn't mean Monday to Friday, this means 7 days a week. If you drink or you go off kilter on a weekend, say you include a lot more fun foods, i.e. your pizzas, your takeaways, etc., or you're drinking booze, then them calories will count. Your body just doesn't say, oh, it's the weekend, have a minute off and I'm not going to store any of this excess energy that you're having. It is going to factor it in. So if your body's then consuming quite a bit of alcohol on the weekend, your body's going to think, right, okay, I need to get rid of these calories. I'm going to prioritize breaking the empty calories down, and it's not going to be in a fat loss stage. Like, you've probably taken yourself what was a deficit from Monday to maybe Thursday, Friday, and then you've taken yourself out of that deficit into a surplus over the weekend. And I have sat down with people in the past and added up what the possible calorie intake was on alcohol, and some people excessively eat and drink over 10,000 calories just over the weekend. So you do have to factor it in, and it isn't to say that you have to stop living, but you have to be realistic with yourself. Like, are your goals aligning with your actions, and are your actions at the right time ready for them goals? And do you know what? Sometimes it isn't, like, life does happen, but your health should still be a forefront of your mind as well. But obviously, just remaining on topic, if you have got a fat loss goal, and it is fat loss, we don't burn fat, by the way, then you do need to focus on the consumption of what you're doing. Fat loss happiness is when obviously things are a bit more consistent, you're happy with the basics, and you're building that consistency over time, and it does become a little bit easier. So once your consistency is established, we can then add small changes to continue progress. If you're not consistent with it, obviously changing things for the sake of it is extremely frustrating, because first, you haven't nailed the basics, and two, you're changing some of these still couldn't adhere to before that, and we're adding more in. So I'll always say to my guys, like, build the habits around more manageable levels, i.e., if I set you going for a walk 4,000 steps compared to your 2,000, it's going to be a little bit easier than saying, right, okay, let's ramp it up to 10,000 just for the sake of getting you moving, or it being a bit higher on paper. So build the basics, build the habits around that, and then increase when the habits are ingrained. And obviously, I've spoken about this before. When we have built them habits, it becomes easier. It's habitual. Like, our brains don't have to think about it. So then people that you compare yourself to that make it look easy, because I know a lot of people say it to me, it's because it's an ingrained habit. Like, I don't have to think about going to the gym. It's natural for me. I don't have to think about eating well because I actually enjoy it, and I include the foods that I like. It's not to say that I won't have pizza, or I won't drink, or I won't have dessert again. I include it. I just don't go dickhead mode like I used to. And I think for me, obviously, I speak from experience. I've trained for 21 years, which is quite a long time, but I've worked with a lot of men and women in this time as well. And no two people have been the same. And obviously, my approach to them isn't the same. One thing I will say is, don't look for perfection. It doesn't exist. Like, I've tried it in the past where we try to get everything perfect, and we berate ourselves if we don't get all the steps in, and we think, fuck it, I'm just going to eat a pizza, and everything else falls by the wayside. If you do 3 out of 4 actions, I can guarantee that your results will be better than thinking, I fucked up one thing, I'm going to throw everything out the window now. It does require, obviously, consistency. So it isn't perfection, it's consistency. And I think people have heard me say this, it isn't about compromise. It isn't about sacrifice, sorry, it's about compromise. I'm contradicting myself there. And this means that you don't have to sacrifice life, but obviously there will be some compromises. Like, can you enjoy takeouts 3 to 4 times a week? Probably not if you actually are in a fat loss phase. Can you enjoy takeouts once in a while? Absolutely, and I do the same as well. Generally, when you have eaten well for quite a long time, you actually don't feel good when you have them takeaways anyway. But it isn't just to say that everything's a transformation. Like, a lot of people do need to improve their health. They do need to move a little bit more. And I think now more than ever that so many people have desk jobs, they work from home, and they're moving less and less. I got my average steps up of my age group, which I was pretty impressed with myself, and I'm in the top 8%. Now, I looked at that week, and it wasn't a perfect week, and I wasn't moving massively, but I was in top 8% just for getting 10,500 steps on average over the week. So it means that people in my age group, like, are moving 4,500 steps over an entire week, which is quite low. This is one factor that people neglect, the walking and their actual movement outside of the gym for the fat loss goal. And this is the missing piece for a lot of people. Now, I had to sit down with one of my guys this week, and she generally thought that sit down was to slash her calories, put in more cardio, and get her moving. But when we looked at her averages and what she was actually doing, like, she wasn't even meeting the non-negotiables, which I set people range targets. Reason for this is, obviously, it doesn't set you up to fail, and you've got ranges, so you don't feel like you're failing. So I said, obviously, her task was to meet them optimal ones, see if she could get to that, and even the non-negotiable would see her averages increase, as opposed to slashing the calories, getting her probably doing more than what she could even handle. And once we've built that up, then we've still got so much room for that wiggle. And then we're not having to think, oh, I've got more and more to do, but I'm still not getting anywhere. So the idea is the consistency, your plan and your structure. And I know a lot of people, I don't know how many listen to this, but a lot of people spend more time looking for that quote quick fix, which takes you longer because one, there isn't a quick fix, and two, more often than not, it's not sustainable. When I say quick fix, it's like normally going to rapid weight loss, and I say weight loss because it is a separate thing to fat loss, but they'll look at rapid weight loss and think, well, if I'm lighter on the scales, I'm more successful. And this often comes from probably drinking shakes, not eating food, and not enjoying it. So if you start and include them fad diets and quick fixes just to get yourself there quicker to be lighter, then one, it's going to be frustrating, and two, you will not be able to enjoy life that much. So some advice that I would give to people, and it's one that I said to my team, like, don't focus on that end goal, focus on each day. What you're going to do? Are you going to go up and move more? Are you going to eat better? Are you going to train because obviously you want to look after your health? And I think resistance training is beneficial not just for obviously men and women, but overall, like, everybody could benefit from it. It obviously, it's going to lower your mortality rate as you get older, and especially for women, it increases bone density. So, I mean, I've never broke a bone in my entire life, touch wood, because I've always trained, I've always looked after my health, and I've always eaten pretty decent. Granted, sometimes when I've got fat loss goals, I will ramp things up a bit, but I do think people could move that little bit more. And removing probably that on and off on track and off track mentality. Your health is for life. It isn't just for that end goal of being a bit lighter or being a little bit leaner. So delayed gratification goes a very long way, and that's something I've learned as well. If you know you've done the work, then you will, as a byproduct, change. And I've had a few discussions with people where they do focus on that scale weight. It gets frustrating, but at the same time, they aren't consistent enough to reap the rewards of the progress. So you do have to show up. And I'll always say to people, obviously, just having a coach isn't enough for that. It is a two-way street. So my core values for my clients, and I expect it from them, is your communication and your honesty. And that's where the online coaching comes in. That's where your check-ins come in. You've got someone that you're accountable to, and obviously someone that's going to guide you as well. So as long as you're open and honest with your coach, you will get results. So hopefully you found this podcast helpful today. And I know sometimes I get these out because the information's helpful, not only to my team, but it gives people an idea of why you might be struggling. And it could be something, I say, as simple as plan and structure, but it does go a long way, and it will probably help you achieve your results as well. So if you do have any questions, or you want to reach out, or you need a little bit of help, you can always drop me a message. Like, the website's in the link. I'm on Instagram. I've dropped the link in the podcast as well, and I'm always open to answering questions for people. I won't obviously just sign anyone up. I do like to have discussions with people first, making sure that I can help them and they'd get the most from coaching as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. I will be back with Mel, and I think we are going to discuss when people say they haven't got time for exercise or to look after the health, because this is bollocks. So I will be touching on that topic as well.